Freedom fighters, I'm coming back at you with a Manic Monday special, and it is gonna be manic. This one's gonna be spicy, I can tell, so buckle up and get prepared for the bumpy ride. So, the hot news this weekend was candidate Jay Jones, running for Attorney General in Virginia, got caught with some leaked text messages where he was writing one of his colleagues or texting one of his so called colleagues, a Republican woman. This article doesn't lay out who it was, but he was going on about how he wanted to kill his opponent. And he said, yeah, if there was, a lineup of people I'd take out, it'd be Hitler, some other guy, and his opponent. And then he says, well, actually, this guy's going to get 2 bullets, his opponent. And he goes on to say, this person, I don't know why he felt so comfortable texting, any colleague this, but let alone a Republican colleague. And she was like, Jay, stop, what are you talking about? And he goes, yes, I've told you this before. People need to feel pain before they move on policies. Um, and then, like, throughout the conversation, she was like, telling him, like, dude, stop, what are you talking about? And, he kept going on and said, even, now she's like, you're talking about his kids. And he goes, yeah, do I think, they're breeding little fascists? His kids need to get it too. And talking about he'll piss on their graves and all this stuff. This is your Democrat position. And they're all over there supposedly. He hasn't dropped out of the race, and no one's disavowed him or removed their endorsement. Supposedly this guy's still going on for election, and he's gonna be, supposedly, if he wins, the attorney general. And this, I've always had it in my bingo cards, as Virginia is one of the places to where the Civil War is going to kick off. And I mean, it might be Texas is another one. It could be California. However, I don't really see it going down like that. Georgia is another one. Marjorie Taylor Greene has recently talked about, how purple that state is. And I think that's one of the main points. Everyone thinks it's going to be a diehard blue state or a diehard red state where the civil wars kick off. I believe it's going to be the purple states. The states with, very complex voter bases and, 50-50 ties and stuff like that. That's where it's going to happen. And Virginia's been going that way for a long time. And you're going to see this guy who wants to be top cop, top basically justice, who decides what cases go, who gets prosecuted, all this stuff. And this leads to a bigger problem. I was saying, you've got many of these people. You had this recent guy, I think in Chicago or something, I forget what position he was, where he called ICE the Gestapo. You've, of course, you saw the LA riots in the summer. You got the DC mayor and stuff calling on, Trump a fascist, and the whole language you've already seen. Now Portland riots. Um, you saw the, I don't know what she is, the mayor or governor or whatever of Portland, some dyke, and I don't know what she was talking about, and saying, we don't need, these troops in here, and the, fascist occupation of, all these people. And look what's happening to Portland. And like I've always said, man, people are always, oh, you're in a culture war. Oh no, it's the info war. It's a psychological war. Whatever war. No, you are in a full on hot fucking physical lead slinging civil war. And I've been saying it for a long time. And you need to prepare accordingly. And I think back to this speech that this guy gave during Charlie Kirk's eulogy or one of his vigils or something like that. It wasn't during the big RNC, one in Arizona. This was like a pre speech that this guy gave. He wasn't really a known person, so I can't remember his name, but he gave a great speech. And one of his main points, I think I talked about it in one of the original Charlie Kirk videos, is do you know what time it is? Do you know what time we're living in? The times that we are in? This is 1860. This is 1774, 75, whatever. Even though conflict was brewing way before then, it wasn't like the year before, but we've been in conflict, right? I've been talking about civil war since 2008 and was sure of a civil war in 2016 if Hillary Clinton would have won. And the atmosphere is there. It always has been there. And it's just going to take, a set of events to kick it off. We talked about the Trump assassination and how a head turn, saved this country from going completely up in flames. Now we have this Charlie Kirk thing. Obviously, things are high. Emotions are running high. Everything's going crazy. But now you get stuff like this. You have these communist mayors, governors, district attorneys, whatever you want, all of it, the whole system set up, going against all the stuff going on, encouraging the chaos. And, JD Delay, I believe is how you say his name. He does a YouTube channel and stuff like that. He does mostly touches on like prison topics and stuff like that, cause he's an ex felon who did he does commentary usually like on the Diddy case and stuff like that of people going to prison. But he is a I wouldn't really say he's a political like position, but he covers more right leaning topics. Um, and he posted the typical, um, freakazoid picture of your dyed haired, piercings everywhere, septum piercing, and spiky studs in the tongue, and gauged ears, and all this stuff, and said, "Here's your Civil War opponents," referring to the left. And what I responded with, what I always have been responding with for years, is like, and I've talked about the false right wing bravado and how they think like it's always, oh, the Civil War is going to be over in 24 hours. And, you're facing 90-pound soy boys who dye their hair and think they're women and don't know what bathroom to use. Those are the pawns. Those are the sheep being led to slaughter. They're the pawns on the front row. Behind them sit the kings and the queens and all the other positions. And that's what I responded to him. You're not fighting these guys. You may come up to fight against them, but they're the front row. It's the cops, the judges, the DAs, the AGs, the governors, the mayors, the whole system behind them. They have the full weight of the government and the force of the state behind them. And they've proven it over and over again. And you've got talking about Portland. I've talked about a case before where I can't remember this guy if he owned the bar, if he was working at the bar, but patriotic American, pro-American, a vet, I believe. I can't remember if that was this case or not. I'm pretty sure he was a veteran. But anyway, the Antifa was doing like protest out there. They were doing something. I can't remember if they were coming after him, and he was putting a stop to it. Of course, they attacked him for it, and in self-defense, he defended himself. I can't remember if I know he shot one. I don't know if that ended up being fatal or whatnot, but they were coming after him and charging him, and he realized there's no self defense in these communist zones. They're they're coming after you. They're going to arrest you, and he chose to take his life, unfortunately. And I've talked about that before, that that ain't the way to go. If these unjust communists are coming for you, um, I believe that that's the fight that's coming in the Civil War. That's what the Civil War is going to look like, in my opinion. Um, people are going to be fed up with it. They're going to fight these communists off. You just saw journalist Nick Sortor get arrested again, defending himself in Portland. And people have been bringing back this other case. Andy No was recently tweeting about another journalist who was like a libs of TikTok kind of guy. I think his name was Laugh at Libs, is what it was. And he was, again, found himself in one of these protests, legally purchased, and I even believe registered firearm. He went through all the hoops to have one, and then he defends himself at the protest, and they put the full weight of the law on him, and he goes to prison. While Andy No said, he's been attacked, he's run down the streets, pleading for his life. And I think in one case he said the officers were even there and they just looked the other way. He ran into a building and asked for help and told to call the cops. When people realize Antifa's after you, they don't do anything because they don't want to be next. That you have a full-on communist, Marxist color revolutionary force in the United States overthrowing the government, a literal communist revolution. And no one's doing anything about it. And in fact, the police and the government are in support of it. And, that's what we've been saying forever. And now you have prominent, conservative people as like Michael Knowles, Matt Walsh, normie conservatives a couple years ago. And this was one of all the, like Charlie Kirk was one of these guys. And one of the reason I had, my gripes with them was I'd always be in their comment section when they're like, back the blue and, we love the cops. I'm like, these people aren't going to help you. These people aren't helping you. They're beyond just like turning the cheek. They are aiding and abetting in this insurrection. They're the real insurrectionists. Us that they call insurrectionists are trying to restore the republic. We're trying to, get our freedoms back and hold these people accountable for the treason they have committed. And instead, they, let the communists run wild and back their side. You recently have Kristi Noem, the DHS, coming out there and saying they have coordinated attacks on agents. They had this one ICE vehicle get swarmed and boxed in by 10 vehicles, and someone brandished a firearm and they had to open fire on that person. You have videos of these ICE trucks and vehicles, going around and they're beeping horns and following them around all around town to warn people they're coming. They're now just openly pelting vehicles. Like if you drive a black Suburban or, Humvee or whatever, they're just pelting it with rocks and like throwing Molotov cocktails and thinking it's an ICE or a government vehicle. And a lot of the times it's just people's private property. You have the rapper Ice Cube had his black van, which they thought was like a deportation van, firebombed with Molotov cocktails. It is a full on hot war. And if you think this is just, debating with a couple leftists, like we said during the Charlie Kirk thing, the debate is over. They don't want to talk. They are in full revolutionary mode. And they've been taught through the schools. They have everything in place. The cops are on their side. The judges' pocketbooks is filled deep on their side. The DAs are working for them. The AGs are working for them. your governors, whatever your mayors, the whole system is up for them. And they're not going to stop. And mark my words, they are going to make you fight them. Literally. And that's not me inciting or encouraging or telling you to do anything. You already know the disclaimer. That is my opinion. That's what it's going to come to. And I mean, I don't know how many times I can say it. I don't even know if I should report on it anymore, you know, because that's how it's going down, man. And that's how this country is headed. I've said before, like the Civil War, it ain't coming. It's here. It's been here for a long time, and people are seemingly just starting to get it, man. But till the next one, you know what it is, man. We are on our own. Nobody's coming to save us. So get right with God, because only God can save you. Freedom fighters out.